Haw,
I used to watch Hee Haw, yeah.
Buck Owens,
Buck Owens,
Minnie Pearl.
Porter Wagner,
Yeah,
Dolly
I
Parton.
actually used to watch that show.
Yeah.
I used to watch that show.
I mean, probably watched it because my folks watched it. I
Yeah,
mean, those were in the days when you had one TV, and I mean, that was a 12-inch black and white TV.
yeah.
It wasn't that everybody in the house had three TVs, one in their bedroom, one in their family room. Today, I mean, you got what, 6 or 8 TVs in the house. I mean, I don't even know how many you got.
There's one in the bathroom. They're all over the place.
You
There
know,
are many.
when we built the house we're living in down here now, I actually put a cable jack in the bathroom
Hmm.
because I enjoy a long leisurely soak in the tub. One of
I
the
don't know if I needed to know that,
one
but
of the most relaxing things I can do.
what? Soaking in the tub.
Absolutely.
No.
In fact, I become so relaxed that occasionally I will almost drop a magazine or a book. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, about a month and a half ago, I actually dropped a book in the water. Usually I sense it and I wake up in time to save it.
Yeah.
I did not. The book,
The book ended up in the
and I
tub.
hadn't finished reading the book yet.
I can't.
And the pages now are so wrinkled. I have to take and kind of wipe the pages. I want to read it.
Why did you
Anyway,
just buy another book at that point?
I'm sorry.
Why did you just buy another book at that point?
Well, I actually thought about it and I looked it up last night, and I'm 99% through the book. So I says, do I want to buy another one of the same
No.
book? And but I did buy a book that I have mentioned to you and many, and probably a hundred or more different people, called Undoctored by William Davis.
Yeah.
Is who's a real was a real doctor.
Hmm.
And in fact, I bought a copy of that last night off of Abe Books, which is my favorite book place,
Hmm.
and having it sent to one of my brothers because there's four of us. Two of us are
Yeah.
prolific readers. Two are not so prolific, and I'm sure he will read it. He's heard me talk about it. In fact, a friend of mine right here in Griswold, I gave her a copy of it, and she still is reading it. She's
Hmm.
enthralled with the whole thing, and it kind of woke me up to more so to the medical system than I had already been aware of.
All right. So coming up, just want to go ahead and promo the show a little bit here, Jim. Coming up at 9 o'clock, it is we're going to journey back in time, so to speak, again with our time traveler friend Joe. Joe comes to us from the year 2030. Now we have some time, no pun intended, before Joe comes in and pops in on the screen. What is your feeling on, and not only that, but hell's going to freeze over a little bit later too. Are you coming in here?
Sorry, my contract's at 9 p.m. 9 a.m.
Come on, hell's going to freeze over. Have a seat.
Hi, Jim.
Morning, Kevin. How are
Look
you?
at this. Look at this.
What's going on, fellas?
Officially, hell has frozen over.
This is because I was never to return to the seat until hell freezes over.
Pretty much.
I guess that's a private joke between the two of you.
Maybe
maybe,
not.
maybe
Oh, it's pretty
not.
public now.
It's pretty public now. You suck.
I suck. You suck too.
Don't say that.
Suck,
Like
suck it back.
it's
No F-bombs this morning, please.
Oh, okay.
Why has that been happening here?
Talk to F-bomb Barney here.
Really?
First time in 5
Yeah.
years.
Did you really
I,
let one rip?
Oh,
I
yeah.
let one go.
Oh, boy.
I
You
got it.
really
I got
did,
it.
yeah.
I got
Did you
it.
get a call from the government?
No.
Well,
They don't care.
indirectly, it was about vaccines.
So what's going on at SNSN? Anything good?
Well, we got Joe the time traveler coming on.
Yeah, this is
So
awesome.
we've got some time before.
Yeah.
Joe pops in on us.
Yep.
He'll be in about 15 minutes or so. So I told you that we were going to do this show, and I said, hey, why don't you go ahead and pop in and or whatever. So what do you think about the entire, even the theory of time travel?
Well, I think probably
it's out there. So
yeah,
it's
100%.
weird.
I think the last 6 months I went through a time travel myself personally. So maybe the last 3 years, I'm starting to come out of my stupor. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I would say more like 3 years, Kevin.
thank you, Jeff. You can
Oh
throw
boy.
Yeah,
Oh,
is this a confessional? I didn't. Yeah.
No.
Are we gonna have more people coming in and giving me my my
Kevin,
testimonial?
Kevin Allen, this is your life.
Yeah. No, but you know what? It's kind of intriguing. One thing I definitely can tell you, I've been meeting like you, Mike and Jim, meeting a lot of people throughout the country and talking to different people. And I actually, now I'm going to self promote a little bit, but I just talked with Spooky Babes, which is Stormy Daniels. She's starting her own series, and the paranormal stuff and all that. I'm telling you, I'm starting to understand a little bit where people are coming from with this stuff. I mean, I'm not totally there, but it's interesting.
Well, I think that people are just they're used to what they're used to. You know, like Jim, follows what he believes and he reads what's interesting to him.
Worked at Raytheon, bought a bunch of houses, made himself a multimillionaire.
He's trillionaire, I think. I think trillionaire by now.
The richest man in Griswold.
George Bailey.
George Bailey.
Far from the truth.
Well, you are rich with friends, that's for sure.
So, what do you think about time travel, Jim? Do you think it's possible? Do you think that it's out there right now? And
Well, I don't discount it, Mike. You think back to Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Was it 25th century or 20? Yeah, the 25th century, I think it was. I mean, we're seeing many of the things that they were talking about then. I mean, yes, humans have a huge imagination. I mean, but could all of that stuff in Buck Rogers when we were children, could that have nobody? I can't imagine that people would have envisioned that 50, 75 years ago, as opposed to maybe it was put into someone's mind from someone who came from the 25th century.
Well, it's one of those things that if time travel exists, then it has always existed.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not, it's been discovered, realized, or the technology has been there.
I mean, wouldn't you guys agree the federal government has finally come around to even admitting some of the UFO sightings? There's news reports coming out daily.
Finally. Yeah.
Finally. And I think, I forget there was a Speaker of the House, actually former, who is now retired from politics. He's big into this, declassifying some of these.
Talking about Gingrich?
No, another one. I can't remember right now, Jim. I'm 51. Since the last time we talked, I gotten older. But my point is that the government seems to even be acknowledging some of these, to your point, Buck Rogers kind of concepts that were out there forever. It's kind of interesting.
I mean, I visited Roswell
in
2008. It was quite impressive. I read the book by I keep thinking he was a colonel, but I think actually he was a lieutenant. I'm not sure. Wrote a book on Roswell. It was pretty interesting. I have no doubt that there is other societies, if you want to call them societies or whatever you want to call them, that exist. Mike and I was talking earlier about aliens being right here on Earth amongst us.
That's what they're saying.
I think they've always been here.
Yeah.
I just think they've always been here. With me, my thought process even goes back to the pyramids.
Right. A lot of that comes back to that.
Yeah, like the
Aztecs. I mean, it's just all that stuff has got
the Great Pyramid of Giza. I mean, that thing is a geometric specimen.
Yeah, when you look at the absolutely fine machining of the stones and the way they mate together.
How could they do that?
Right.
Well,
how could it be dead center equidistant from the north and south equator?
That's a
I mean, it's just too crazy.
Well, there's stuff down in South America, and God, so long ago I read about that stuff, but there was a number of markers at various points in South America, and they couldn't figure out the significance of them until they started talking about spherical geometry, and then it made perfect sense.
Right.
They work perfectly for interstellar travel.
Seems like somebody's got a plan for us. We just don't know yet.
Yep, we'll find out. That's some of the user comments that are out there right now. Sabina says, "Good morning. Can't wait to see Joe." Sabina's been following Joe for quite some time, as have I. Ted Phillips says, "I haven't found the reverse button yet." So neither have I, Ted. You know, neither have I.
Hey, at my age, it would be nice to come up with it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It'd be Benjamin Button. Lisa Susie says, "Hey, I want Jim to join us on Tuesday." There you go. Jen brings something up that it was on the tip of my tongue, and I was just waiting for Jim to finish with his statement. But I'm going to put it up on the screen. Do you know about the Philadelphia experiment?
I've heard of it. I know nothing about it.
Okay. What do you know about it, Kevin? You're
So-
shaking your head.
So no, they put a bunch of people in a city called Philadelphia, and they all had a cook off with the best steak sandwiches,
Best steak sandwiches,
Philly
yeah.
steaks, and that's what I remember about that.
That's it's not a bad
I think
experiment, man, I'm
I
telling
think
you.
there's got to
You
be
come up with a
something a
better
lot
theory then,
much
bro.
deeper than that.
That's not a bad experiment, though, dude. I'm telling you.
Who's got the best Philly steak?
There's a
Sorry, Jen.
there was an event with a ship in Philadelphia, and what had happened allegedly is that the ship just kind of vanished in like a fog, and then when it came back, or then it was like seen in like Virginia, and then it came back and was back in Philadelphia again. And when it reappeared, it was even there were people that were inside of the structure. I'm like part of the structure. There was like 2 people
You mean
was-
built into the fabric of the ship
built
itself?
When was
into
this to
the
happen,
fabric in the
Mike? I think-
40s, early
okay.
40s.
All right.
And there was there's a gentleman that came out of it by the name of Al Bialik, who him and his brother, who were serving in the Navy at the time, jumped off of
His
that
brother's
boat.
alcoholic, right?
I don't alcoholic, yes. He claims that when he jumped, he literally jumped in time to the year, I think it was 2749. And the things that he says about 2749 is wild compared to, like, for example, Florida's gone. He says Florida is gone. Florida is completely sunken in. California
Sinkhole.
is gone. Most of the East Coast, he says the makeup of the United States through natural disasters is totally changed.
Oh, I think that's fully believable. But going back to the Philadelphia, I think there's a rational explanation for that.
Okay.
And that is that when they were building these ships, I mean, we were producing, I don't know if it was a ship a day during World War II or what, but it was an astronomical number. Okay, so let's say you're working in a compartment and you fall asleep. All right, and so then and somebody comes along and they slam another sheet up there and they weld it up. You're entombed in there forever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. One of the things that Joe has mentioned that we had spoken about during the show, as a matter of fact, he says that when they had to be very careful where they dropped him, because he could have been dropped in a place where there is now a building. He said, so now I am the building. I am part of the building. You know,
Interesting.
yeah. So you got dropped in a big field, you know, and just, I guess, you know, hoping that was nothing there, you know,
Well,
just a random field. So,
you know, he's talking about dropping things. An interesting story that my mother's family, they spent a lot of time in Vermont. I mean, they came over in 1624, maybe earlier than that even, and immigrated to Vermont in somewheres around late 1700s, early 1800s.
Yeah.
But my uncle Doug, who's now passed away, he lived up there. We built a house up there for him. And he claims that there's a little pond on the property. And he claims that one winter, something came down, went through that ice, and that pond never froze over in that area again that year. It was what was this? Was this just some piece of radioactive material that came from outer space? What was it?
I don't know.
Pennies from heaven.
Pennies from heaven. So the thing is
Interesting though.
Yeah, I mean, do we believe in time travel? Do we not believe in time travel? If you do, tell us why. If you don't believe, then tell us why. Either way, it's a good conversation. So,
yeah.
So in the meantime, before Joe shows up, which should be, and he's probably going to pop in any moment now, and as soon as he does, we will bring him on. So in the meantime, Kevin, tell us about your new. You have a new show. What's going on with that?
Yeah, new show, 3 shows, 5 shows in less than 3 months. It's been a great experience. Talk about time travel, right?
Yeah.
No, it's cool. We're just plugging away. I'm doing a show Monday through Friday. Do our thing. Doing some we just kicked off a special behind the crime episode. I think we'll probably be airing that on Wednesday evenings, where we work with media and actually victims, people part of the crime sort of investigation. Partnered up with Norm Pattis, famed
Mhm.
attorney here from Connecticut. Working with him.
Who
Yeah.
is currently working on the Photos Doulos case?
He represents the he
the
no
estate
longer
now,
yeah,
right?
he's on the estate, and that's a very good point. He doesn't have unless we time travel, I don't think he can speak to his client who is now deceased since he committed suicide. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride learning about the corporate media sort of the bullshit behind the scenes, Mike. You know,
Yeah.
the stuff that goes on, and you gave me a lot of great advice I didn't listen to, and had to learn a couple lumps along the way. And things are starting to work out though.
It takes time.
Yeah,
It takes
does.
time. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, since we've talked last, I mean, I've had. I'm not going to get into the thing of who we interviewed, but this is a business that takes not 2 hours a day. It takes 8 hours a day to put out 1 hour of content. If you want to do it right.
Mike knows.
No,
Yeah.
he's been,
So I've heard.
yeah, you've been
and,
saying
and,
for-
and you know, from my doing the Friday morning programs, I mean, I've told you that the amount of time to prepare and be able to talk, I hope somewhat intelligently on the subjects that I usually raised.
Mhm.
There was hours of prep.
Yeah.
I'm not one that can fly by the seat of my pants that well, I guess, as far as, some people can come in and just go to a microphone and they can keep
Some people can,
stream
some
of-
people can't. Some people act like they can,
yeah.
and they can't. I think I'm one of those actually. I have to prepare a little bit. If I don't,
Yeah. If
then
I
I'm
if-
dead in the water. So.
I needed to prepare. I number one, I don't want to embarrass myself any more often than I
You were so
probably
hard
do.
on yourself. You were so hard on yourself. You're very well prepared. You're very well read, and you're very conversational. And you bring up good topics.
you know a little bit about everything, Jim, and that's one of your key successes, I think.
That's
That's
why
my
I want.
opinion.
That's why I wanted you to be on. Do your own show because you do have a lot of insight on a lot of things. And I know that sounds very general, but it's true. I keep looking over to see if Joe's popping in yet. He hasn't popped in yet. But I did. We have message back and forth this morning. He's he's got the link to get back in. So
Well,
it's
as
all good in the hood.
I have a couple of expressions. If I don't learn something new every day, I might as well be dead. Okay, and I kind of think
There he is. Well, go ahead. Finish your statement.
Well, that was just one part of it, and I'm willing to discuss almost any subject with anyone as long as it's a rational discussion.
Yeah.
And that you can have an open mind, both directions, and at least listen to what the other person is saying.
Got it. All right, Joe, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, man?
I can. There you are.
Unfortunately,
What's up,
I'm gonna have to do this and work at the same time. I bought a small business, and I had somebody call off today who usually watches over this while I'm doing the interview. So if you'll bear with me, I didn't want to cancel for sure. So I'm here.
So I got a couple guys in the studio that I've talked
Okay.
about, you a little bit and trying to give some idea. We have Jim Barney. He's the gentleman in the blue jacket. And we have Kevin over here. Kevin is actually one of our former state representatives in the state of Connecticut.
Good morning,
Oh.
Joe.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Kevin. How you doing?
Good morning, Joe.
So I've talked more to Jim about this, more so. One of the things what is the thing I said I wanted to ask him? I had mentioned it right off.
About time travel.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
I think he was looking for something more
I know.
specific.
No, it was something more specific.
You said Philadelphia. Are we talking about that?
Oh yeah, Joe. We got into a little bit of a discussion of the Philadelphia experiment. Are you familiar with the Philadelphia experiment?
I am.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the Philadelphia experiment? And there's a guy named Al Bialik who is has videos all over the internet. He supposedly came forward like 30 years later, after his experience on this ship. You yourself dropping back from the year 2030. What is your thought on this subject?
I think it's so complex. I think it's beyond. I think it's beyond our understanding, our technical capability. I do believe the stories that I've heard that have come out based on people's experience. This disappearing, then reappearing. I don't know, soldiers ending up other places for moments in time. I don't doubt their account. I mean, if it can exist, we've talked about this. If it's ever existed, it's always existed.
We talked about that before you popped in this morning, actually. Yeah.
I know that's kind of like hard for people to wrap their mind around, but I mean, if you have this ability, then you can go back and drop this ability in any time, in any place, so it's always existed. But I do believe that the government has some capability. Not as advanced as my account. But again, my account, I don't believe that was built for human DNA to travel in that, because I have ongoing issues with my body that I don't think I would have had this not happened. So but yeah, I definitely think they have some capability. I mean, for sure.
Go
ahead, Jim.
Is there any connection with what you refer to as the timeline and people who, say a few books I've read, Life After Life or Life After Death? Is there a connection between what I just mentioned and what your experiences are, Joe?
Will you shut that for me? I don't think so.
No?
I don't know much about that, and I don't know what I believe. This experience has definitely changed my entire perspective, about religion and everything. I mean, everything is different because we're taught a certain thing, and to have this happen, it goes against everything I was taught growing up. I was raised Catholic, and so I had this belief system about the afterlife, and then this happens to me, and like I said, my perception is completely different. I've went into it on the lives. I don't want to offend anybody. That's like one of those subjects you're like, I don't want to offend anybody, but I don't think that they are intertwined in any way.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I'm sorry. So, Joe, thanks. This is very interesting. I had the pleasure of interviewing a gentleman named Howard Haley, and he wrote a book on ascension. And kind of to follow up to Jim's question, I'm sort of interested. Do you see any connection to sort of that spiritual? And again, the Catholic Church doesn't acknowledge ascension. It's something that from the Pope on up, there would be no comment from. But when you read this book from Howard Haley, and there's many sources out there.
The Pope on up from the Pope is like God anyway.
Yeah, and down.
Right.
The point
There's only
is,
one more step.
Well, there might be many. We never know who's behind.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's true.
I mean, to the point is, the Catholic Church has had some of this concept with the term ascension. Have you looked into that? Is it something you have talked about?
There is a spiritual component to this. I think that's why they were so eager to step in and help. Because
when you say they, who are they?
The beings that gifted this technology. I think they were so eager to step in and help because they're fascinated by that connection that we have with the spiritual. I mean, I do believe that. I'm not sure if they have it or at one time they had it and they've evolved beyond it. I'm not sure, but I know that they have this interest in us because of that component. So, you know, there is a spiritual undertone to the entire thing. I mean, I feel that way. You know, like I said, my belief system has changed. I think, you know, I'll just go ahead and say it. I think we all worship a source. You know, we may name it whatever, but it is the source. It's the source of creation, the source of everything. And I think that, you know, you return to that after you know, after you go. But yeah, I do see a correlation with the two. But when it comes from like from a religious standpoint, I just try to stay away from that.
Thank you.
Sabina, who has gone on record as saying that she is going to be the next time traveler's wife, obviously forsaking her own husband if she's currently married. So she wants to know, what is your perception of the afterlife? Your perception,
like I said, well, I just said it. I think when we pass on in the physical, we return to the source. It's the source of all things, and you know, I think that we have a connection that like that gifted this do not have. You know, I think there is a component to us that either they've had at one time or whatever the case may be. You know, I didn't have a conversation with them like that. You know, I was force fed the interaction with no control, no free will to speak or anything. So, but when I came away from that experience, there was just this thing that lingered that, you know, I don't know, a piece of them, maybe I don't know, but I know that they're very interested in our connection with that. I'm going to have to I'm sorry guys, because like I said, somebody called off and I bought this business and I have to still keep it going, but I still want to do the interview. So
I have a question.
Okay.
That just, you know, in current events, you know, knowing you and stuff and trying to figure out where things fit or where things lie. One of the things that you had said always is that you have being one of the seven being sent back.
Okay.
That you have an objective that you have to take care of, whatever it is. I've told you before, I don't want to know what it is, even if you were going to say I did.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, but I don't even want to know. But
yeah,
I guess the question is that now that you've bought a business, how does that intertwine in things if you have to go ahead and take care of the objective, the piece that you were sent back for to begin with?
Well, I mean, look, I was getting to the point where you know, I was getting stir crazy. Go ahead and write down what you need, buddy. I'm on the phone. Go ahead and write down what you need. What do you need?
Oh, I'm trying to look for my trailer.
It's in the back. Drive around the building. It's in the back. There's a whole bunch of them trailers. It's in the back. Okay.
It's not Amazon.
Yeah, it is. It is Amazon. Okay. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Business is business.
Yeah, I know, but I feel bad. But at the last minute, like I said, the person just called off on me. It's a lot, but you know, I did get this business because there is use not only with my objective, but with having these assets as things start to get bad, and they're about to get bad. I keep trying to preach it to people. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but things are Things are about to get bad. So it was a strategic move as well, so it's not easy to juggle both, but I have everything taken care of in the event that tomorrow it's like, my go time. I have everything taken care of to where this business, because people, I'm not responsible for people and their livelihood, so that this will go on and they'll all be fine. Nothing will miss a beat.
Now, with you are a member of the 7. There's 6 others. Everybody has their own objective that they were sent back. Were they all sent back? This is a 2-part question. Was everybody sent back from 2030? First part. And the second part is, have others already accomplished their objective?
I did an Instagram show last night. The guys were ruthless, unlike yourself. They're very the people that were talking to me said that this was the meat grinder, so they asked the same question. Yes, from the 2030 standpoint, I've had contact with a few, and both from the same time. Both ended up on the same day. So there's definitely something in that day that we came back that year that, is part of a cycle. Like we're convinced on that. I don't know about the objectives, because we can't speak. When we've interacted, can't speak on this. So, I don't know if they've completed it or not. All I know is mine, and I have not yet. I know it's coming. I'm much closer today than I was in 2012, obviously, but I don't know in that regard if they've completed it or are currently doing, because that's the one thing that is off limits. When I decided to do this, I had a list of things that I would talk about, and then I had everything else, because there are some things that for a plethora of reasons. I mean, I don't. You and I have talked about it, Mike. So, but I had a list of things that I felt everyone needed to hear, because all of this, since we used the word intertwined earlier, all of this is intertwined. This is like a good versus evil, type of scenario. So, I mean, that's why we're here.
The reason why I asked the question like that was because I was curious if everybody's objective was, and you said intertwined, do they all fit together like a puzzle piece?
I believe so.
That was the reason why I asked that.
Because I've analyzed mine, because that's all I know. I don't know the others, but I see where mine would fit in this, knowing everything that happens, for the next 9 years. I see where mine has importance and what mine is trying to do. So I can only theorize, but I would say, yeah, that they're all part of a plan.
Strategically,
Definitely.
It would make sense to send 7.
Yeah.
If they're going to send 7 people back, and everybody is sent back to quote unquote change the narrative, which I think you've done anyway just by being here.
Yeah,
I think just by being here, that's going to change the timeline a little bit. So
right.
So like for example, who is Mark Zuckerberg? Anybody in the future, like in your timeline?
Is he anybody other than the?
Well, I mean, I'm sure he exists, but I mean, is like for example, is Facebook a huge thing? Is there another social media platform that was bigger or?
No, they're pretty mirrored. Like I said, there are differences, things that happen here that didn't happen. in my timeline, and things that happened in my timeline that haven't happened here. But I think for the most part, they're pretty mirrored. Yeah, so he's the CEO of Facebook in my timeline. Nothing more, nothing less. So there are differences that are pretty distinct. We've talked about a couple. I talked about it last night on that show.
George Floyd is what we bring up.
Yeah, I mean that took me by surprise, and it's such a major event that I've told you that I think that there are fixed moments in time. You can't change them. You can attempt to change them. They're still going to.
They're going to happen.
Yeah, they're still going to happen. So, but that that took me by surprise. But I see where that could have happened in my timeline and just not gotten the exposure. So I couldn't say for certain that it didn't happen, but maybe in my timeline, the person that was making the recording, was caught in traffic or whatever the case may be. I'm just saying, there's some differences, and then for I'd say 95% is mirrored. I'm able to to tell people, hey, this is going to happen with accuracy because, I'm focusing on what I believe are those fixed moments in time.
What is something that happened in, say, 2020 in your timeline that was maybe pretty big or notable that we didn't see in this timeline? So, I mean, there's got to be things, like you say, there are things that happened here didn't happen in your timeline. So I'm just wondering if in reverse.
Something that just sticks out, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in my timeline, and they didn't win in this timeline. Same players, same game, just different outcome. So last year was such a train wreck. I mean, I would really have to sit and think about what happened in my timeline and didn't. And I'm just being honest. Last year was the beginning, the rollout of years and years of planning. I know people, probably roll their eyes when they hear that statement, but in a few years' time, they're not going to roll their eyes. They're going to be able to just sit back and go, wow, we all got duped. So yeah, I'd have to give that one some thought. Like, I mean, I literally would have to sit and write down like, okay, and try to match them up, because so much happened last year. Nothing sticks off the top of my head that was a huge major event, because it seems like the entire year was a major event.
Can I ask? Go, Jim.
Yeah, well, actually, look, I want to get to one I've had up on the screen. It says, this is from Jen. There are over 32 different races of beings, and they are not all good. Which ones?
Are they talking about the
aliens? I'm assuming.
Yeah. I don't know, because I haven't had interaction with 32 different races.
You weren't part of a council of alien beings, right?
Right. No, it was. But I did get the sense from them that there's more. I did get that. Like I said, the interaction wasn't like you and I are having. It was, we didn't converse. It was I've spoke about it in depth, and it's like an emotional thing, because I wasn't able to have any direction in the conversation. I was just kind of forced the information, and that's just what it is, man. But I did get the sense that there were more, like life everywhere. I took away some things, patterns, really good with numbers, things that before I just wasn't. you know, I don't know. But I did get that sense.
Kevin, you have a question.
Yeah, Joe, thanks again. And you probably didn't account for Tom Brady in your timeline, just for the record. And my question
No,
is,
hold on. What's that?
yeah,
No,
Tom Brady, right?
yeah, I
He was
know. And
he was the
yeah,
difference in that Chiefs game.
I said at the end of September, I think like September, right before October started, I said Tom Brady would be in the Super Bowl. But you're right. I didn't account for the GOAT for sure. You know.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask in reference, you know, you bring up George Floyd, and it is an impactful, you know, that name is will go down in history as probably one of the changes in our civil rights in this country,
Yep.
you know, to where we are. How much is race an issue in timeline forward? And I guess maybe the next question is pandemic. Is there much more of that kind of stuff that goes on in your timeline going forward?
Race is always going to be an issue, because we are fundamentally flawed, and I say that just being in these beings' presence, I just it's one of those things, man, where you know, I say it's very emotional because it is. So yeah, race plays an issue. It continues to play an issue. This pandemic is, I mean, am I allowed to talk about this on here? You remember what happened last week?
Yeah, I do.
This pandemic is.
We'll find out.
Okay, so this is the catalyst for all the change. It will be with us. It will evolve. You know, every year we're going to be faced with this being an issue, a new variant. You know, they keep putting all these keywords out there. You know, this is, you're going to sit back in a few years and you're going to be like, wow, digital currency, you can draw a straight line to COVID. You know, oh, this microchip, straight line to COVID. Like, you're going to see everything starts with this pandemic. Like, I know people are saying pandemic. I don't do conspiracies. Like, I don't do them on my social media. If it's a conspiracy, I call it conspiracy. Like, I mean, but when it's fact and there's no way around it, there's no way around it. You know, this was created by man. It was released by man, and it serves a purpose. And now we are going to sit back and watch as our lives fundamentally change. And I promise you, you'll draw a direct line. You know, if you put on a whiteboard all the things that change, it'll all go back to this pandemic.
Everything tracks back to COVID.
Yeah.
Jim,
And I
you
don't think
had
it's a
something.
government thing. You know, I think it's higher than that. I do.
Well, there's so many thoughts that have come to mind since Joe said bad things are going to happen. So I'm going to start right back there when he made that first comment. I wanted to ask you about CMEs or EMPs. That's a subject that I've studied in a fair amount of depth. I envision that as being one of the worst things that could probably happen in this nation. Did you see anything such as that in your time period of 2030?
So 2024, CERN is putting these satellites up to manipulate weather, but we all theorize that they can already, but to be able to manipulate weather, and they have an accident that ends up being, when you're saying CME, what are you saying? Like
A coronal
take the
mass
power.
ejection.
Oh, okay, but yeah. So no, not like from a natural. They have like an EMP effect sending this up, which does alter the technology. The technology. I can't say the word today. The land, anything, any tech devices, communication is down for a very extended amount of time. That is when, because everyone keeps asking me about population, about there's so many, there's so much junk out there for people to consume. Um, that's when this has a huge impact on population, because you take away the phones, you take away the power to most, for an extended amount of time, and people, they lose their mind. I mean, they don't know how to act. People can't just go to the grocery and get food. Like, we're so comfortable in this society. It's everything's at basically on demand. You're hungry, you drive down the street, or you pick up the phone. Um, it's a huge issue that spans several months. So that's probably along the lines of this, affecting us in that way, like a coronal ejection would do. Um, that does play a huge role in all of this. I mean, we're still what, 3 years away, but um, when you start to see this in the news, because not a lot of people have heard of CERN, you have to be, a nerd, in the scientific community or into that kind of thing to know who they are. But they do. When you start seeing them putting satellites up to be able to, basically, it's a huge thing. They're coming out saying, hey, we can do this. We can, direct rain in this area, be able to grow crops. We have control over that now. It's not a good thing. It doesn't end well.
Is there any connection between CERN and Elon Musk?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. But that group, like, I just did a YouTube video on that group. I know that there's a TikToker that's a particle physicist on the Atlas experiment. People should just kind of, like, just read up on what they're doing, because I don't care if you're just like the most logical person and you don't believe any of the things that are labeled conspiracy or whatever. You'll read that and you'll go, wow, what are they doing? What are they doing there? They play a big role in this change, a huge role.
Well, you mentioned the weather control. Of course, HARP was a big conspiracy theory for a long time. I think that's been totally proven to be a fact. There's another one that's called Scalar, and I'm not really that familiar with Scalar. Are you familiar with Scalar from the point of view of?
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, as a follow up to Mike's question, Joe, Elon Musk, he's probably, I think he's one of the humanoids among us that is brilliant, right? I mean, there's no doubt he's got a brilliant thought process. He is very heavy against AI. In fact, many comments. I want to know, like, AI is like, you talk about this, like, sort of this thing that can happen in 2024. Is there still that control of AI, and how much control will that whoever's controlling the buttons of the AI, or is AI actually controlling us?
Yeah, so it hasn't progressed to the point to where artificial intelligence has taken over all the way through 2030. I can tell you this, with quantum computing coming, all right, I mean, it's basically here, but I mean, you'll have that access in your home by 2030. With that, AI is, a lot of things are going to change. A lot of jobs will be replaced. But the population takes I hate to, I don't like to put this out there because I don't want to fearmonger, but the population takes a pretty sizable hit during this next 9 years. And AI plays a big part in these jobs. You can see where this is going. Like looking at 2030, I was more trying to just stay out of society at that point, because it had changed so much. There's a pretty sizable group of people that don't want anything to do with that. And I was more focused on, my day-to-day routine. But AI, you can see the progression. You can see where, if I was to put a number on it, maybe by 2050, it's running us, because it's scary. It's scary now to where, so my TikTok lives get banned every time I go live. I mean, it just is what it is. And I think people have the perception that, somebody's sitting there watching and goes, oh, he said that, ban. And I'm trying to explain to them, no, this is all an algorithm. It's self-learning.
Oh,
So
AI.
it's running, it's building a profile on you that you're not aware of. It's taking what you consume, what you like, what you post, what you write, and it's building this profile. I don't think people are aware that it's here now, and in the way that it is, because it is here. And it's in your phone, it's in your home, it's so yeah, it's if I was to put a number, like guessing, having lived through this, 2030, so by 2050, they're definitely in control. So I don't mean to, sorry about the long answer, but where Elon Musk is saying, hey guys, no, this is, we need to steer clear of this. He's absolutely right, because once you reach a tipping point, there's no coming back from that. You're definitely inferior to that.
How do you see 5G impacting some of this discussion?
5G is very important. That's the future of, the internet, and they need to be able to have that kind of data being sent back and forth, and those speeds to do this next level stuff. And I'm talking microchip, digital currency, like a one currency, all this stuff that's coming down the pipeline. That's why the rush to put this up so quickly. We're all locked down, and I'm not trying to tie it conspiracy wise, but it's the truth. We're all locked down, and they're putting towers up everywhere. And that's a fact. So,
Yeah, I mean, I just
very,
see this. I'm sorry.
no, go
I
ahead.
just see this. I just see this as another method of total control.
Yeah, I mean, and it is that the goal is for them to be in control of everything and be witness to everything. And when I say everything, I try to put the emphasis on your person, because I tell people, once you get this, there's like public service announcements that come out, and I remember, because I was like, what the hell? Did you get your DID? So it's a digital identifier. That's coming very soon. It's already started with this passport. It's going to be easily altered and manipulated. They're going to need a better way to track this. Again, drawing the line to COVID as being the catalyst. So this comes into play, but it's going to quickly just turn into everything else. Like your social was never intended to be all the things that it is. Now it's your credit, it's your criminal history, it's all this. this identifier is supposed to be a yes or a no. Are you vaccinated or not? You know, it quickly becomes, hey, you know, we're gonna use this for your monetary. I'm sorry, I gotta. This guy is back again, and I apologize. Listen, man.
I have no idea.
The trailer is out there. The trailer's out there. Yeah.
I need a bill.
That is your bill.
Oh,
That's it right there.
that's the bill.
Yeah, I'm not in their relay system. That is your
I'm
bill.
trying to get a picture of.
Then just take a picture of that.
That's this one.
Yep.
Because it's my first time.
Yep, that's it. Yep,
There is no bill.
that's the bill.
Uh,
Okay. You say bill or seal?
no, I gotta see.
Okay, that's a bill. Yeah, okay. Sorry, guys. He's just like standing there looking at me.
My God,
like,
work sucks.
like, what kind of person does an interview while they're working? Again, I'm sorry. Like I said,
Does he not
I-
understand what is taking place here?
I trying to tell him, man, we're over here trying to do big things here.
On the screen, do you get anxious knowing about what's coming, or do you feel better prepared this go around?
I do feel better prepared, but you know, I'd be lying if I was to say that I'm not anxious or nervous. You know, even knowing all of this, there are still surprises when things happen. And I think it's because I have a different perspective this time.
Mhm.
You know, I'm looking for different things this time. Whereas before I was just kind of like, you know, living life and, oh, wow, that's crazy. Now I'm looking for certain things in these events as they take place. So I do get anxious, you know. I'm worried. I'm not really worried for myself, but I'm worried for everyone else this time around, you know. It's hard to explain.
I agree with you, Joe. I'm not worried for myself. I'm worried for the future generations, my grandchildren and stuff like that. That's what really bothers me. You
Yeah.
alluded to significant population reduction in a statement you made a couple of minutes ago. And there is an awful lot of mainstream doctors out there that are talking about these vaccines setting us up for major health issues anywhere from 6 to 15 months down the road from those that have been vaccinated. Any comments on that?
So I've always been one to, I couldn't in good conscience tell somebody not to take it. Because I never got it. I'm not going to get it this go around. It's not something that I'm not okay with something being fast tracked. And here's something that I just learned that I didn't know the first time around. This is the first time they've ever used this. And now it is the largest medical experiment in the history of mankind.
We are the experiment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean,
most of the information that was done on animals a number of years ago turned out to be a disaster.
So so I've never been one to tell somebody not to get it, but I'm starting to come around to the fact that, you know, because I didn't want to in good conscience say, like I couldn't say, hey, don't get that, and then somebody get COVID and have the unfortunate happen. But I don't see anything long term that any health issues. I mean, there are deaths, but there are deaths with anything, you know. People have adverse reactions, and maybe I was just clueless the first time around. I don't know. But as far as there being like health issues and, you know, mass, it doesn't play much part to the population reduction. I mean, that is
But it's like reading a book. You know, it's like you read it one time, the second time you read it, you're going to get something out of it that you didn't get the first time, and the third time, and so on and so on. So
look, I was walking out of my house yesterday to go to work, and I watch news. I'm not a news junkie, but I have to. I keep it on in the background, in case something sparks a memory and I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to happen. I can, I can talk about this. I heard the doctor talking about giving this to adolescents, and I was kind of like, okay, I remember this. I remember this fall when they start giving vaccines in the schools. I remember that being a big, huge deal. So I'm listening to it in the car. I put it on my phone, and I'm driving. And that's when I heard that this is the first time this has ever been used. It's been used in controlled environments, but like we're talking out, and we're not just vaccinating a country. We're doing the world, and I sat and pondered on it all day yesterday, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I'm going to start, being anti-vax. I mean, even though I don't see anything from my past that where people have grown a second head, or you know what I mean. There's nothing that I remember being tied to the vaccine as hey, we probably shouldn't have done that. But the more I take in and try to compare my past experience with right now, I think I'm going to be 100% anti-vax from here on out. So, I mean, I'm always learning as well. Like I said, I see this through different eyes this time around. Different life, different eyes.
Eyes wide shut.
It's pretty crazy. Isn't that a movie?
So give us, yeah,
That's a movie,
was
right?
it
A
Nicole
weird.
Kidman. That was a crappy movie.
It was a weird movie.
So give us an idea of, I mean, we've talked about it before, but just for some of the new people and, maybe even for the benefit of just Kevin and Jim here, what is something that's going to, and like I said, we've done this before, what's happening in 2021? What happened in 2021 that is to come that we can expect?
So Joe Biden is going to step down in the fall due to health reasons. I think everyone sees that already. But again, all of this I've been saying since last June. So Joe Biden steps down. There's a financial crash that is epic, that we are like right on the cusp. That's why this big push to teach everyone how to trade crypto, because that's a hedge against this. Will be impacted in the beginning, but will recover much more quickly than traditional markets. So those are two major things. And like I said, you're going to have vaccinations in your schools this year. I know people, this is all about the children. I know you can't see it right now, but this has been going on for a long time to make them weaker, to make them socially incapable. And now here we are. It's being rolled out. So be looking for that. Be looking for your son, your daughter to come home and say, hey, I got this paper to give you, because they're going to be doing that in schools. Those are three major things that I can tell you about this year. You go from having the first woman vice president to the first woman president, same person, same cabinet, same term. So that's pretty big. And this financial collapse probably sets the tone for the year, because with that, and I don't mean like, a recession type deal. I'm talking like a 40% correction. You see
That's
the
a big one. That's big.
Dow 18,000. 18,000 is going to be, you probably remember when the Dow was 18,000. How long ago was that? you know. So
Not a long time. It was what, 6, 7 years
Yeah.
ago, maybe.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
like,
that's a long time, right? 7 years.
yeah.
Joe, I wanted
So
to ask you. You bring up a lot about sort of these changes, and I don't disagree with you, especially on some of your predictions for the fall. I think
not
people can see that,
predictions.
or your vision, your life, you're giving back to us
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you've experienced. Let me ask you though, in regards to a name that I think is synonymous with government, and it's Sir Fauci. Actually, I had
You had to bring that name up.
well,
didn't you?
I bring it up because it's interesting to me. If you look back, and as Mike said, I was a former politician, and I'm gonna be a little presumptuous and name drop. I got a chance to do an interview and be on Alex Jones' show, and we talked about Sir Fauci. I didn't realize, and Alex Jones was spot on. This guy has been in the White House more than any other human in the history of America.
Yeah.
Over almost 9 administrations, I think. He has sat in that seat advising administration after administration. And by the way, it doesn't mean Republican or Democrat. This is the insiders of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I'm a little scared of what his impact is on the future of this country.
Listen,
Any comments, thoughts?
he was public enemy number one. I made videos about it. I don't think people took to that. I don't think they wanted to hear that. I this is when I first started doing all this. I'm like, listen, you need to study this man. You need to understand that, whenever politics is so divisive. Whenever you have somebody that stands above that, like you said, he's worked for Republicans, he's worked for Democrats, he's been there for a long time. He's also, he controls a multi-billion-dollar, I guess, industry. He sat on all the AIDS research. Like he was public enemy number one when I started all of this. I don't think people wanted to listen to that because, they were like, oh, I had people in the lives like, yeah, this frail old guy. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I'm like, listen, you need to know that this man is, he's dangerous.
I mean,
And
Joe, he franchises the disease, then he franchises the cure, and he owns and has rights and financially has gained, as you said, billions of dollars. It's
yeah,
documented.
He's
Yeah.
he's getting income from patents that were paid for by the taxpayer.
Right.
Where
Amazing.
else does that happen? It
Nowhere.
certainly doesn't happen in private industry. I know that personally. I have patents in my name, and I've never gotten a single cent from them.
well, I think that he's, everybody wants to put that I don't want to be religious. Like I said, my view has changed, but that antichrist label on anybody that comes out and is somebody that people can rally behind. I mean, heard about Obama. Everyone's, oh, maybe he's this. That's about the closest. And I said all of this, and I made videos, and of course they were banned and taken down. And I spoke about it in lives, and it's got me banned. But he was public enemy number one. I was trying to get people to just look in that direction, because you have him come on and he's already contradicting himself. You don't need a mask. That's crazy. Oh, now you need a mask. All of that is symbolism, and all of that is to take away your identity. Like, we could talk about him for a long time. So yeah, and now here we are, what, a year removed from the pandemic. You barely hear his name. We're on to other things, other topics, and that's done intentional. Oh, there's getting heat. Okay, well, we're going to throw this out there, this out there, this out there. There's so much that goes into this, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So many layers, so many levels. They know what they're doing. They're in control. I hope people start to wise up and put this thing together.
Well, you got the tribunal down there of Redfield, who was the head of the CDC until just a couple of months ago. Burks, the scarf lady, and Fauci, the head of the CDC. of the infectious disease portion of it. Those people have been associated with each other for a long time. You go back many, many, many years, and Redfield was caught in fraud and producing fraudulent data at an Army lab down in Texas, and he managed to escape that somehow or other. This is a bad bunch of people.
Yeah, for sure. And what they're in control of and what they represent, you know, people should take notice, because we're talking, you know, your health, your well-being, and you, like, just hearing those words, infectious disease, like, I hope that COVID, if it does anything good, anything positive, it opens people's eyes to the fact that, you know, when you think of weapons and things like that, you know, no one draws that correlation. They don't think that, you know, something like that could be weaponized or used to bring on this fundamental change. But, you know, here we are, we're in the middle of it. You guys are going to see, people are going to see in a few years how you can say, damn, I feel like I got duped. I feel like this was all one big hoorah, you know. It all goes back to that damn virus. So I didn't
On
mean
the
to
board.
curse, by the way.
That's all right. Those that damn virus. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
On the board, it says there's a gentleman. I believe he's a gentleman. It just says Mo Z. I was wondering if he, meaning you, Joe, came from another timeline, or are you in the same timeline?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same. You know, if it was the exact same, then everything would be, you know, exactly as I remember. Some things happen. I think it's mirrored. I don't think it's the same. I don't think you.
Go
I
ahead.
don't think you can. I gotta. I'm sorry, man. This guy is like
Tell him that's
walking
his
around,
bill.
huffing and puffing.
You want me to tell him?
What can I do for you? Yeah, give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. I can still talk though. I'm sorry, Mike. Like I said, man, I didn't want to cancel on you.
No, that's fine, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, show me. Yeah. So
I don't know if you and I have talked about this a little bit, and I don't know, is it so much, is it time travel, or is it more interdimensional travel?
well, I mean, I guess it's
Being
time
perceived
travel.
as time travel.
Yeah. I think it's time travel, because I came back to another time, you know. But I guess it could be perceived as both. You know what I mean? Sorry. I'm really upset that my office person called off.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I know, man, but I try to give you my whole attention, you know.
I don't know. Just send the complaint to HR. That's
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Well, you know what?
are you
Unfortunately,
HR as well?
yeah, kind of right now. I'm just everything. It seems.
I'm HR here too.
Print, sign, and date. So
Is it in triplicate?
no, it's I got to make a copy, so it's only double.
Jim, do you have any other questions for Joe?
I think I've opened myself up too much already this morning.
How about you, Kevin?
No, it was a pleasure meeting you, Joe. I think you're intriguing, and you're a hardworking guy, obviously, because you're multitasking. So
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys, and it was a pleasure to meet you. And you know what? You're right. As soon as you start talking about this, you've definitely opened yourself up too much. You know,
I gotta get you connected with. I gotta get a few other people I know connected to listening to you.
okay, yeah.
That's the
Listen,
goal.
yeah, that's the goal, man. And if you want to exchange information, let me know, because like-minded people, we need to get like-minded people just aware and able to teach others, you know.
Now, I have one more question, and this spins off of something you said last week. We were talking about how people ended up on your property,
Yeah.
You know, the black SUV that had been trailing you.
They're going to shut this off, Mike.
Yeah, we came right
They're going
back,
to
didn't
shut
we?
this off. We did, but I think they were trying to send a message to you.
So I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
Do you? It's mind control. I forgot my question.
The black SUVs, is he fearful of maybe?
Oh, if they are government entities that are trailing you, why are they not trying to talk to you to find out what is going on?
You know, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I
You think they would find use for you, you know, in their way.
They may already know what's going on, Mike, from another source.
Yeah, you got to think there's 7 of us here. You know, we don't know who each other is. At least that's initially how the experiment was supposed to be, so that we couldn't, you know, collude to change things. I personally think that they do know. You know, I've had a few run-ins. You know, the guy on the property, the statement that they were making outside was, I think, just a statement, you know, because they just sat there. Even when I confront the individual and, you know, he just pulled away, came back the next day. I think that was just to make a statement, you know, hey, we know you're here. We're watching you type deal. But I think, like he said, they probably know to at least the gist of what's going on. I mean, we're talking about the United States government. I mean, that's, you know, there's no hiding. I know that there's no hiding. Thank you. In this. And I've never tried to hide, you know. I use the same information as, you know, myself in this timeline. I've never tried to hide. I've just never put it on the surface before until last June.
Thanks, man. Thanks for another week of insight from you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll see you next Thursday, but without the work.
You can check him out. You can check Joe out on his YouTube channel. It's 72030. Now, let me explain. The V is actually the number 7. So it's SE7 EN 2030. Joe is our friend from the year 2030. He comes back and gives us insight on what we can expect, what is happening through the narrative.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, it's SE, the number 7, EN 2030.
And it's also TikTok and Instagram are the same.
Yeah. Ooh, good for branding.
Well, I tried to keep it easy, you know.
That's actually the best way. Joe, thanks, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. A pleasure meeting you guys.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you over.
Same here, Joe.
I'll talk to you over the weekend.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that is Joe. Do you have it, Kevin, since when I talked to you first, and now you've been in here and got a little bit of a. Now, you got to understand, I've been talking to Joe for a while now. Mm-hmm. Has your perception changed, or is it still the same as when you walked in the door today?
Listen, I think we are all skeptical of things that we don't understand. I certainly come into
fearful of what we don't understand.
I think that's a combination statement, right? And that responds well to just satisfying the fear of what we don't really know what tomorrow is. I do know this, that I've had the advantage of meeting interesting people. And I think it's really cool to hear, you know, whatever it is I want to learn and hear about. And I certainly think there's some credibility. You know, he obviously didn't pick Tom Brady as the winner in the Super Bowl. But you know, have that in his.
How does that happen?
Well, Joe and I, you know, maybe down the road, you and Joe can talk about it. But you know, I think it's intriguing. I think it's interesting. People should open their minds up, because I think one of the things I commonly heard from Joe was there's parity with corruption. with everything in a timeline, right? Like we're hearing the government corruption perception. There's people out there behind these curtains that actually pull the strings. And I think if anything we can get from Joe, if we can take away some of that and kind of how it applies into where we are currently, maybe we can all work together and have a better world by learning.
And Jim, your thoughts? Same question.
Well, there isn't much that was discussed this morning that I wasn't already pretty,
Yeah, because you and I have chatted. Yeah.
pretty familiar with. I mean, I've been looking at this stuff for 10, 15 years. So he didn't shock me with anything that he said.
What about the Biden statement?
No, that didn't shock me at all. I'll be surprised if he lasts until the fall.
Got it.
I think to that same point, there's a really good credible statement there in the sense that we're going to be ramping up to the 2022 midterms. Now, a president's responsibility in his party is always to go and lend that hand. There's no physical capability for this guy, and I'm not trying to be mean-spirited. I'm just saying physically, he's not going to be able to keep up with the pace. So I think to his point, I thought more towards 2022, but I would not be surprised for a moment that politically the powers to be say you step aside. Kamala Harris, by the way, Kamala Harris, 1% of the vote in the primary in her, sort of her fight for the presidential candidacy, now going to be the president and the 47th president of the United States is a pretty amazing bait and switch.
One of the things Joe did say, he says this whole thing really is about the vice president. He was talking Kamala Harris last summer, really before anybody really, about being vice president before.
I actually said it too. I mean,
Yeah.
I tried to jump on it, but I knew right away.
Are you a time
optically-
traveler?
What's that?
You a time traveler?
No, man. Just I'm a study of politics, and I think if you looked at optics for the time and crisis that our country is in, there needed to be that with a presidential candidate, and it worked out. Good timing for her, and she dances well. She's a good dancer.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Jim, thanks for stopping by as always. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you coming in.
It was. I'm glad I did.
Good. Kevin, the Kevin Allen Show. You can follow you on Facebook, on YouTube. You're on at what today? 5 or 4?
Yeah, we go out 4 p.m. every day, but of course, like your stuff, you can always go back on and
Yeah,
see it
sure.
anytime you want.
Yep.
And yeah, definitely appreciate you having us back on the.
That's Allen, ALAN, Kevin Allen Show, the Kevin Allen Show. Also on TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok, YouTube, all those other places. I
You haven't
appreciate the
been
olive
banned from
branch.
YouTube yet?
No, I've actually no.
Well, there's a lot of other sources that you can get on now that they can't shut down.
It's funny. Joe was
Patreon,
talking about the black car thing in your conversation,
Yeah.
and there is every now and then you get flagged on a social media platform, and you know what? That does tell you somebody's really watching, bigger than just the platform.
They're here. They are here. They are here.
And where are your First Amendment rights? Okay.
Well, I think
I
that
mean,
could be a whole show of
That's a
that.
different, yeah.
We've let these major corporations, Facebook and the rest of them, basically only present one point of view, and their licensing should be pulled by the FCC.
That's a show in itself. Definitely, I agree. Thank you, Mike, for the olive branch. I appreciate it.
No problem. Here's just a comment real quick. Hope you read what did John Teeter said in the next episode. I mean, he do say some things. Okay. I mean, do he say the same things he said? No. There's if you're familiar with John Teeter, there were some things that he said that were the same, but not. So different narrative altogether. All right, we're out of here. We'll be back once again tomorrow morning with Paul Lash, Chris Goodenough, and Stump the Chump. That happens every single Friday. Again, thanks, Jim. Thanks, Kevin, for joining us here this morning. And, of course, Joe, our resident time traveler. So we will be back again tomorrow morning. Don't forget Phil Michelle today from 12 to 1 with live from the Grizzled Youth Center, as well as Angela with lots of pop culture and just basic goofiness from 2 to 6 right here on SNSN.